Hello everyone, welcome to another video by IGCSE Fashion. Hope you're all doing well. If you're new here, then please subscribe for the channel. Without further ado, let's start with our video. Today I'll be explaining some notes from paper 6 for chemistry. I feel like these ones are the most important ones, but still I recommend you to solve past papers and to check what do you really need to memorize. But for now, I'm going to share what do I have for the day. So I'm going to start with the definition of excess. When they tell you that a substance is in excess, they mean that there are more than enough to react. Okay, so there would be a precipitate at the base of a test tube. Now, talking about crystal making, firstly you heat or evaporate the solution, then reaching the crystallization point until saturated, then which means also until saturated, and lastly leave to cool. Difference between crystallization of oxides or hydroxides and carbonates. So when you hear oxides or hydroxides, you can recognize that there is water in the same. So carbonates do not need to be heated when you're acting with an acid. Why is that? Because water can evaporate when it is heated, but like a carbonate wouldn't. So that's why we wouldn't really need to, like, there's no point of heating when a carbonate is reacting with an acid. Now, another thing is talking about graphs and graph drawing, which is that you need to cover at least one third of the graph, but I prefer to cover half of the graph. Like you have a large space, so why don't you cover it? And draw the best fit line when it's required. Lastly, do not uh, extrapolation. Don't do extrapolation unless the question asks. So, what do I mean by extrapolation? So, extrapolation is when you extend the line because the trend is obvious. You cannot do that unless the question asks for that. So, don't do it if you feel like it, unless the question is asking you to do so. Now, talking about cobalt 2 chloride with ammonium sulfate, condensation will happen and turns blue to pink. Another point is that anything containing ammonia or ammonium, when it is heated, a red litmus would turn blue and the pungent smell would spread out. Uh, anyways, let's just proceed. Titration. Now we need to know a bit information about titration. Now I just summarized it up into 4 points, starting with um, used to prepare soluble salt from group 1 metals or ammonium salt. Secondly, put an eye on the reading. So the cylinder can be upside down, like the experiment that they would provide you with can have a cylinder that is upside down, so check the reading before making any decision. Thirdly, you place a white tile. Why is that? Because we need to see the color change clearly, so by using a white tile, you can have a clear look. Fourth is we don't use universal indicator in titration. Why is that? Because in titration you can have many color changes. So a universal indicator won't have an accurate solution, won't have an accurate answer because there are many color changes that would happen. And I also recommend you to memorize this table that I am placing right here because it literally summarizes everything that you need to know. Moving on, soluble salt preparation is reacting metal type with acid after filtering the solid to obtain the salt by evaporation or crystallization. So when do you say that you will perform evaporation or when do you say that you need to perform crystallization? Crystallization is connected with having a hydrated crystal and evaporation is connected with having a dry powder. How to know the crystallization point? You bring a glass rod, you place it into the solution, and if tiny crystals would form on the glass rod, then you reach the crystallization point. Other than that, you still didn't reach it. Now, talking about insoluble salt preparation, uh, how do you perform this experiment? Is by using precipitation. Now, precipitation is performed by using two soluble salts. We wash the residue with distilled water. Why? To remove impurity or to collect all the filtrate that is stuck in residue. Now, rate of reaction, mass decreases with time because there is a gas produced that would escape. So when they ask you why did the mass decrease in rate of the reaction, because there is a gas that is escaping. Now they would usually show you a test tube or a flask that has that would have a cotton at the, the mouth of or like the opening of the flask. Now this one shows you that the gas can escape firstly, and secondly it prevents the acids to be lost. Now, talking about using powder, why do we use a powder rather than huge pieces of a certain substance? Is to increase the surface area so we can have a faster reaction. Okay, moving on. In reaction acid with metal, we add excess metal. Why is that? To make sure that all the acid have reacted. To perform this experiment, we can either remove the plug and add the MG ribbon and start the timer. Or you can place a glass division at the bottom of the flask, and whenever you feel like starting, you just swirl the flask, and the solution and the empty ribbon would come together whenever you start the timer. Okay, now this one is all talking about the rate of reaction if you forgot. Talking about the source of error, so I noticed that when I was solving past papers, I'm telling you, all these notes I've been using them during my O levels. I've done them during my O levels when I was studying, and I felt like sharing it with you all. So I hope that I'm helping you as I helped myself during O levels. If you're having any question about the notes that I've written, you can just type it in the comment, and I can in the comment section, and I would check it out later on. Now, source of error is usually measuring the temperature. Use polystyrene to prevent the heat loss. Uh, okay, instead of a beaker. Secondly, you can use a pipette or a burette instead of a measuring cylinder for accuracy, because measuring cylinder is not accurate as pipette or burette. And lastly, repeat the experiment and take the average. Now, this one can be in most questions, but you need to make sure that repetition hasn't been mentioned in the experiment. I guess we're close to the end. Okay, so we're talking right now about collecting gas. We have different ways of collecting gas. We have firstly using a glass syringe. Why is that? We use it to find the volume. Upward delivery or downward delivery is connected with the density. So when we use up with less density than air, and using the opposite for the downward. Talking about collect over water, which is this experiment. If gas was insoluble in water, but you need to know something, that if over water involved heating, remove the delivery tube from the water before turning off the heat. Why is that? Because the pressure in the test tube decreases and water will get into it and it will crack eventually. Use concentrated sulfuric acid to dry gases. So this one is an abbreviation for concentrated, sorry. So you need to write it as a full form rather than the abbreviation, because sometimes they wouldn't accept it and they would reject your answer. So write it in the full form. So using concentrated sulfuric acid, we use it for drying gases. Now, talking about safety precaution, whenever they ask about that, then just write these using gloves, lab coat, goggles, and foam cupboard. Now, what is a foam cupboard if you never have seen it? So, you can find it in labs where it would be a very huge uh, box where it is having like a transparent walls, and there's some gloves that would like lead you into the box, but there's only like gloves, you cannot interfere into the things that are inside it, so you won't get exposed to the things that are happening inside, but only your hands that are covered with the gloves that are inside the box that can work inside. Now, the appearances that you need to know, because some questions would ask about the appearance of certain things, including metals that are all gray. Copper is brown, copper oxide is black, and its salts are blue, except for copper carbonate, it is green. Now, nitrogen uh, dioxide is brown gas, and that is all. We covered all the points that I've written earlier during my O levels. I hope that I helped you, as these notes also helped me. Any question can be written in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and have a nice day.